What if the real story of Scotland wasn't written in books or etched into the stone of castles, but buried deep inside the blood of its people? Because Scotland's DNA isn't just unusual, it's unlike anything ever discovered. Hidden within it are traces of ancient Ice Age survivors, warriors who painted their bodies blue, and seafarers who came from lands so far away no one believed they could have reached these shores, and yet their blood did. It's a genetic mosaic that defies every old story historians once told. For centuries, Scotland was painted as Celtic, sprinkled with Viking influence. But when scientists began decoding its DNA, they uncovered a truth far stranger and far older. Inside the Scottish genome are signatures of forgotten peoples, fragments of ancient worlds, from Ice Age Europe, from desert caravans, and even from frozen Siberian plains. Some lineages have remained untouched for nearly 10,000 years. Scotland's DNA isn't a timeline, it's a time machine. And to understand how this came to be, we have to go back to a time when Scotland wasn't Scotland at all. 12,000 years ago, Scotland wasn't green or wild or free. It was frozen. A land buried under ice so thick it crushed mountains and swallowed valleys. But when that ice began to melt, animals returned, and following them came people. They were small bands of hunter-gatherers from continental Europe, pioneers chasing herds northward. And here's where it gets strange. DNA from these earliest Scots paints a picture that no one expected. They had dark skin, curly hair, and piercing blue eyes. These Mesolithic foragers fished along the coasts, hunted deer in the highlands, and built fires whose ashes still sleep in the soil today. And they never truly vanished. Around 5 to 10% of modern Scots still carry their genetic fingerprints, a direct link to people who stood on Scotland's shores over 10 millennia ago. In an age when much of Europe's ancient DNA was wiped clean by migrations and wars, Scotland's isolation became its shield. The mountains, glens, and islands acted like vaults, preserving bloodlines the rest of the world forgot. But their quiet existence wouldn't last forever. A new people was on the move, and their arrival would rewrite nearly every genetic line in the British Isles. Around 4,500 years ago, newcomers arrived from Central Europe. Archaeologists call them the Beaker people, named for the bell-shaped pottery they carried. But their most powerful legacy wasn't ceramic, it was genetic. Within just a few centuries, they replaced up to 90% of male lineages across Britain. Entire paternal bloodlines gone. It wasn't mass slaughter. It was something quieter. Marriages, families merging, and older lines simply fading away. Scotland's ancient hunter DNA was nearly erased, yet not completely. In the most remote corners of the Highlands and Islands, fragments of those Ice Age genes endured. That's why modern Scottish DNA feels so unusual. It's a weave of two very different threads, one ancient, one new. Together they created a people both European and primordial, a living bridge between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. Centuries passed, kingdoms rose and vanished, and from the north came whispers of fierce tribes, warriors who painted their bodies blue. The Romans called them the Picts, the painted ones. To outsiders, they were savages. To the land, they were its heartbeat. For centuries, historians thought the Picts disappeared without a trace, but DNA says otherwise. They never vanished, they blended. The Picts were the descendants of Scotland's first foragers and beaker migrants. As Gaelic culture spread, their identity changed, but their bloodlines lived on. Modern Highland DNA still carries their genetic echo, proving that Scotland's so-called lost tribes are still very much alive. When the Roman Empire marched north in the 1st century AD, it met a land unlike any other, wild, misty, and unyielding. They called it Caledonia. Rome built walls and forts, but never truly conquered Scotland. Yet even in failure, they left something behind, not through conquest, but through connection. Roman soldiers stationed along Hadrian's Wall came from across the empire: Spain, Gaul, Syria, even North Africa. Some stayed, married local women, and raised children whose DNA carried traces of lands thousands of miles away. Modern studies reveal faint but undeniable hints of Mediterranean and Middle Eastern markers in southern Scotland, quiet proof that even the empire's edge absorbed the world through families, not empires. When Rome finally withdrew, Scotland slipped into mystery. No legions, no empire, only scattered tribes, each clinging to survival. While southern Britain was reshaped by new invaders, Scotland remained largely untouched.
Its isolation preserved what history tried to erase: ancient genes, old languages, and stories whispered beside fires. DNA from this era shows an astonishing continuity, some lineages surviving unchanged since the Ice Age. In a world constantly rewritten by conquest, Scotland stood still, a living museum of ancient Europe. Then came sails on the horizon, longships slicing through northern seas. The Vikings had arrived, and they didn't just raid, they settled. On the islands of Orkney and Shetland, they built farms, villages, and families. Today, up to 60% of male lines in Orkney are Norse in origin, higher than in many parts of Norway itself. That means modern Orcadians carry more Viking DNA than actual Scandinavians. From the Highlands to the Hebrides, Norse genes mixed with native blood, creating one of the most complex genetic tapestries on Earth. Even Scotland's aristocracy wasn't immune. Names like Bruce, Stuart, and Sinclair all trace back to Viking roots through Norman settlers. But here's where the story twists again, because even bloodlines weren't always about blood. For centuries, Scottish clans were thought to be vast family trees, each member tracing back to one powerful ancestor. But modern DNA tells a different story. Some clans, like the Campbells, were genuine dynasties, one Y chromosome branching through generations. But others, like the MacDonalds, were mixtures, men with completely different origins all claiming the same name. Why? Because in turbulent times, clan identity was about allegiance, not ancestry. When a family sought protection or victory, they took the clan's name as their own. It wasn't genetics that united them, it was loyalty. That's why Scotland's DNA, even within a single clan, is a patchwork, a fusion of founders, followers, and survivors. Most of Scotland's DNA traces back to Europe: the Ice Age foragers, Beaker farmers, Celtic tribes, Viking settlers. But hidden within a few rare Scottish family lines are outliers, genetic threads that stretch impossibly far. Markers from North Africa, from the Middle East, even from the frozen reaches of Siberia. Less than 1% of Scots carry these ancient signatures, yet their existence is breathtaking. Some likely arrived with Roman recruits from distant provinces, others through Viking trade routes that reach deep into Eurasia. Imagine a fisherman in the Hebrides carrying DNA that once journeyed across the Sahara, a Highland child unknowingly holding genes that traveled the Silk Road. Even on the edge of the world, Scotland was never truly isolated. And then there's Scotland's most famous trait, the fiery gene, red hair. Only about 1 to 2% of the world has it, but in Scotland, it's nearly 13%, the highest concentration anywhere on Earth. It comes from a mutation in the MCR1 gene, linked to pale skin and freckles, traits that help northern peoples absorb more sunlight. It's a biological quirk turned symbol of identity, born from adaptation and isolation. A visible reminder that evolution shaped Scotland as much as history did. Over the past 3 centuries, millions of Scots left their homeland. Driven by famine, the Highland clearances, or the promise of a new life abroad, they carried their DNA across the planet. Today, more than 30 million people around the world claim Scottish ancestry. In America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, echoes of the Highlands live on, in music, language, and blood. From Appalachian ballads to bagpipes in Nova Scotia, Scotland's DNA still sings across continents. From Ice Age hunters to Viking lords, from painted warriors to global travelers, Scotland's DNA tells a story of survival, adaptation, and identity. It's not the tale of a single people, but of many who became one. Every modern Scot carries within them a tapestry woven from 10,000 years of migrations, battles, and bonds. Every freckle, every flame-colored strand of hair, every gene that whispers of far-off lands, all part of a story the world is still decoding. Scotland's DNA isn't a mystery to solve, it's a mirror, showing us how the past still breathes inside the present. If this journey through blood and time fascinated you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with others who love uncovering hidden history. And tell us in the comments, what surprised you most? The Ice Age survivors? The Viking bloodlines? Or those mysterious genes from deserts and snowfields far beyond Europe? Because in Scotland, history isn't just remembered, it's inherited.